Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Just Revenue, our new name. And this week I am excited to talk to you about calculating your retirement number. Now, we haven't spoken much about retirement on the podcast yet, but I know it's a big thing that people want to know about. I know that there's a lot of pressure, or like the stress, right? It's this like low level stress of what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I feel like our parents' generation had it somewhat easier. You work a job, you kind of stay within that job, and then you can retire, and you've got like just maybe one pension pot, and you just get paid from that, and like there's a state pension as well. But for our generation, that career dynamic has shifted, is the kind of first thing to point out. So even if you did work a 9-to-5 previous to running your business, you probably had more than one 9-to-5, which means you probably have more than one little pension pot sat around, because in the UK, if you're over the age of 22 and earning over, I want to say it's like around 20k, you are automatically enrolled into a workplace pension scheme unless you opt out. So you might have these little pots, or you might not, because me, when I was in my early 20s, I definitely opted out because I was like, no, I need that cash now. I need to, I need that to live my life now. And workplace pensions are really good. I'm not knocking them. Obviously, the fact that we have multiple is something we can deal with, but workplace pensions are good. And it's something that us as business owners now don't have access to, in that when you are part of a workplace pension scheme, you contribute a percentage of your income, but so does your boss, like so does the company. And so that's essentially free money, right? So when you were in a 9-to-5, like had I known back in the day, I would have been like, oh yeah, rinse the company for what they've got, like give me all that free cash. But I didn't understand how it worked till I thought, I've got plenty of time to worry about it. So I just kind of ignored it. But now I'm self-employed and I have a pension, but it's no longer a workplace pension so I'm a sole trader in the UK. Now you can have, and I feel like pensions is maybe like a complete other episode because there's so much that I can get into with them. But to kind of like give the brief summary is, if you are a sole trader, self-employed, you essentially, like, the money that you earn for your business is just yours. There's no kind of like legal separation. And so you just need to get a personal pension, private pension, personal pension, self-employed pension. It's the same thing with different branding. So we just want to pick one of those. But if you are a limited company owner, you can have, like, essentially you're setting yourself up with a workplace pension, because especially if you're on payroll, right? You can pay yourself both in your employer. So you as your own employer can contribute as an employer, and that reduces your corporation tax liability. And you can pay in personally as well to kind of like boost it. And there's tax relief as well. Again, pensions are a whole other episode, guys, because there's just so much that So you can do both. I think a lot of sole traders just go down the personal private pension route, and a lot of limited companies just go down the kind of like employer route, and they don't tend to do both. It depends like how much you're contributing before we start thinking about whether we contribute in multiple different ways. But anyway, aside from that, we weren't thinking about it. And I think a lot of us are guessing when it comes to our pensions. I definitely have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, oh, either they don't have a pension at all because they don't know where to start or how to start, or they do have a pension. They're like, I set it up because like some other business coach influencer posted about it, so I opened it, but I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of like putting 50 quid, 100 quid, like 100 quid a month in there, but I know I'm not doing what I should be. So you probably fall within that camp, and that can be like sole trader or limited company. Like you might have a pension open, but you're like, I don't know. So this episode is to basically walk you through how to know how much to contribute to your pension and whether or not you are on track. So I've got 5 points on my little list here to go through. By the end of step 2, we have your retirement number. Step 3 is working out what you already have. and what that will grow to. Step 4 is looking at the number of income streams that you want to have when you are in retirement. And then finally, we could calculate the gap. And then that tells us how much we need to be investing today. This is the 5 steps that I walk all my clients through. This is the 5 steps that I teach inside a 6-figure safety. The first thing that you want to think about when it comes to your retirement is, what do you actually want your life to look like? I think everyone jumps in with like, I need a number, like how much is it going to cost? And I'm like, how much is what going to cost? But if you come to me and you're like, Emily, how much should I be saving? And I'm like, I don't know, girl. I don't know. What are you saving for? You know, I'm always going to ask you that question. What are you saving for? This is exactly the same. What are you investing for? Okay. What are you putting away for? Because you can have, like, there will be 2 people with vastly different ideas of what retirement might look like for them. You know, you've got on the one hand, you might go, do you know what? I want to retire at 50 and I want to go on like 4 cruises a year and I want my state pension to just be like a bonus. Maybe I gift that to, you know, my sons, daughters, whatever, especially if they have children. Maybe I gift them that as like an ongoing thing, blah, blah, blah. So that person's probably going to need a lot more versus you might be like, do you know what? I'm not really bothered about retiring per se. I just want to know that I have the option because I quite like what I'm doing. I've always got to be doing something. I will always be making money, I think. Obviously, like, things change, but I can see myself as like, you know, a little granny with a side hustle. That's just how I'd see myself. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm not really worried. And like, I would like the option and like, yeah, sure. Like maybe like 2 holidays a year. But really, I just want to know that like my house is paid off and like my family is taken care of. Okay. So like vastly different scenarios. Also, you might have like, over here, they might go, well, I know I have a family history of something like dementia, Alzheimer's. So like, I've got to factor in, you know, care costs as well. So there's lots of different things that you need to kind of go away and have a think about. And this is honestly the biggest step. And it's the step that most people miss because they just want to jump right in. They just want to feel like they're doing something. And by doing something, that means like putting money into an account. But there's no point putting money into an account if you don't know what it's for. Okay, you're just kind of saving money and hoping that you have enough when you want to do something. And you should know by now, like, we're not about hope. Like, hope is not a financial strategy. Like, we have to know exactly. And like, yes, plans can change, right? But once you know how you got to an answer, you will know how to tweak that plan to get to your new answer. Okay, so that is step number 1, is considering what is your life vision. What is the vision for your retirement? Okay, once you've done that, and that's like a little journaling exercise, right? You can like take some time thinking about the people you know and maybe what their retirement looks like. What do you like, what you don't like, and how to come up with this vision. Then step 2 is obviously we need to work out how much that vision costs. Now, this is the bit that I think people just go, well, I can't, like, how long is a piece of string? I can't guess it, so what's the point? I'll just put in a rounded number and hope that it's enough. No. There is a lot of research out there to suggest how much you will need in retirement. There's the retirement living standards, okay? So you can just Google retirement living standards, you know, put UK or whatever country you're in. In the UK, we literally have a website called Retirement Living Standards. It's by Pensions UK. And essentially it's a study or like collation of studies and analysis, if you will, of how much it costs in retirement. And it makes certain assumptions, which is why, you know, we'll take the numbers with a pinch of salt and like look into how are they getting these numbers. And obviously we need to factor in things like inflation as well, but it gives us a good starting point. So to put it into context, the retirement living standards says that the minimum like operating like number for, and this is for a 1-person household, and you can switch it between 1-person and 2-person household. Generally, I tell my clients to just assume 1-person household is because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's just assume it's just you and you can look after yourself. And then if you have another person there to share the burden with later in life, then you've got extra money. Like, win-win. So I always assume, like, just base it on one person. So the minimum is £13,400 a year. And this is like current day. Okay. So we would want to like consider inflation. Moderate, and it jumps really considerably. Moderate is £31,700. Let's call it 32. So moderate is saying you need £32,000 worth of income per year. And on the website, it kind of breaks down where they are getting those numbers. But I will note that in all of its calculations on this particular website and particular study, it is assuming that your house is paid off. And I think that because generationally, like until now, like that would be the case, like your house would be paid off by retirement. But now where house prices are a lot higher and mortgage lengths have increased in order to kind of meet that demand, like for us, for instance, like we have 38-year mortgage. Obviously it was now like 36, 35, but that will take us into like our mid-60s. Okay, so I'm going to have to factor that in and go, okay, but this is assuming I've already paid off my house. So I need to work out, will I, won't I? And again, this is part of like your wider financial strategy of like, okay, but do I want to overpay my mortgage so that it will be paid off by the time I want to retire? In which case we go back to that life vision, you know, when do I want to retire? Again, all these things to think about. And then comfortable, it says 43,900. So it's, why are we doing, just round it up, 44,000. Okay, so the difference, I would just ignore minimum, honestly. Like minimum is like, hopefully we have enough, but let's go for moderate, if not comfortable. So 32 to 44,000 pounds per year is what you're going to need. And so that becomes really difficult, right? Because at this point you're like, great, okay, cool, I have a number, but like, how do I get that money per year? And again, there is another episode in here about how pensions work and how we draw down from pensions. But for now, let's go to step 3, assuming that between 32 and 44, let's go 37. £37 per year is going to be our goal for our retirement. So step 3 is all about looking at your current financial situation in regards to retirement planning. So with this, you want to go away and look for past pensions, like past workplace pensions, all the little pots that you have. You're going to want to go away and find them. And it is not as hard as you think it might be. So first of all, I would just list like where have you worked, like which companies have you worked for? If you can remember the years, that's really useful information. And just make a note of anything that you know around like who you worked for and when you worked for them. Then you can just Google, and I'm literally doing this like in my time with you, is like find old pensions. Okay. There is a government resource called the Pension Tracing Survey. So I've just clicked onto those, and I figured, you know what, if you are watching the YouTube version of this podcast, let me see if I can share my screen. No. Okay, whatever. I'll just tell you what I'm seeing. Okay, well that link doesn't really want to work. That link's not opening. Let's try this other link. Okay, well the government website is being slow, which is slightly worrying. So there is this government website, and you can like put in the details that you know and try and find them. You can also go to maybe that company, if your company's still running. So for instance, I used to work for Costa, good old Costa in the UK. And so I could go and find, I know that the company that owns Costa is called Whitbread. So I can go to Whitbread, I can go on their website, I can find their HR details, and I can send them an email, start a web chat. The phone them up is usually the easiest way, but I know us millennials hate phone calls. So you can just talk to them and go, hey, like, this is my name. Obviously, if you are married now, like, use the name you did have when you were working with them. And like, this is what I worked for you. I'm trying to find like pension details. And hopefully like someone should get back to you. Now, there is the government website is finally loaded, and it's literally just called Find Pension Contact Details. And then there's a Start Now button. There's also like the pension tracing service. I think they've been renamed, but it has a telephone number for them if you so wish. There's also a postal address if you so wish, but you can use this like a web app anyway. So I click Start Now, you do a declaration, and you basically say that I will only use this to get contact details for a pension I have or someone else, and I have their permission. You agree. Then it asks you, are you looking for an NHS, civil service, teacher or armed services pension? Obviously, if you are, click yes. And then it goes, what type of pension are you looking for? Are you looking for a workplace pension or a personal pension? Well, in this case, we're looking for a workplace pension. Do you know the name of your employer who set up your workplace pension? And if you do, click yes. If no, let's click no. Do you know the name of your workplace pension scheme? So again, yes or no. I'm clicking no for these. Okay, so that goes what you can do now. It says you can search using a previous name of an employer or pension scheme. Okay, so I'm going to click employer because no one knows their pension scheme. Really? I'm like, I don't know who my pensions are with. So let's say if I worked with Costa Coffee, I can click on those, and then it says, okay, Legal and General WorkSave Master Trust Pension Scheme. So then it gives me the details of the pension scheme that Costa Coffee is using. Okay. And it gives me their address and also the telephone number. But obviously I now have the name, so I could also just go online. So again, I can like come back, workplace pension. Okay, let's do another one. I used to work for ATG, which is a theatre company. ATG Entertainment. Okay, so now I've got that, and it says previous names for that scheme. But yeah, then it has that information. So then what you can do with that information is just get in touch with them and go, again, hey, like, I'm so-and-so, I had a pension with your company at this time. Even if you don't know if you did have a pension, it's worth checking because they might come back and say no, and you'll be like, okay, maybe I didn't have a pension. Maybe I did opt out, because maybe you don't remember. So there's that. There is also companies nowadays that will go and find your old workplace pensions for you and consolidate them. Now, this is something that I did. It's something that I recommend with caution, but I do recommend because it means that you can put everything into one pot and have greater control, especially as a sole trader, because I could put all my workplace pensions, my previous ones, into a pot, and then I can start contributing to that as if it's a normal, like, personal, private, self-trader pension. So I use Pension Bee, and I'm out of referral links, guys, but just know they're great. With Pension Bee, its whole premise was started on like, we will go out and find your pensions for you. And it is great, honestly. So you sign up and you get a personal beekeeper. I love it. I love the branding. And you give them as much information you have as like, I worked with these companies at these dates, and they will literally go away and find your pensions. Now, they will come back to you with like, this is what I found, this is what I moved over, and they will start the ball rolling with some of your pensions. There might be some that they're like, we need further information, or we can't find this, or yeah. So they will come back to you with any further information that they need, anything that they find out, and generally they will liaise with your pension company for you. So I had a client where she did this and the company was just being so slow. It was always like they were like, yes, they do have a pension, but like, no, we can't find it or access it. It was really weird. But what was good is that she didn't have to worry about that herself. Like she had this beekeeper, like this person looking after that for her, kind of keeping her updated. So it did mean that getting her pensions consolidated took a little while because the person had to like keep going back to them. But she didn't have to do any of the legwork, and eventually it was all sorted. So that's one thing to consider. Now, there are other companies that do this. I don't know the fee structure of these other companies, but they are out there. So, other banks do exist. This is not an ad for Pension Bee, but just a reference point for you to use. Again, in terms of choosing a pension company, obviously if you are opening an account with Pension Bee in order to consolidate your pensions, you're going to be using their pension. So you want to make sure that it is the right pension company for you. I'm going to have to do a whole other episode on pensions. But, okay, to kind of round up step 3 is we are basically getting all the numbers of how much we currently have, okay? So how much do you currently have in pension schemes? Workplace pensions, public pensions. Government pensions are slightly different. If you do have a government pension, generally if you can log into it, it will tell you how much you're expected to get. The defined benefit, which means essentially you will get a set amount per year based on a percentage of the total income you were on when you left, and then based on how long you were there. And government pensions are weird, but essentially you don't want to treat them the same as like other workplace pensions, because other workplace pensions are considered defined contribution, which basically means that it's whatever you contributed is your pot. So it's more like cash in a pot for you to like move around and invest as you so please. Okay, so that's like consolidating what you currently have. Now, the next thing to consider is how are you going to get your income as a retired individual? And I say this because generally we kind of ignore the fact that we can have multiple income streams, and we just kind of assume like, oh, there's one pension has to like cover everything. But that is not the case. Okay, so I usually tell clients it's like, yes, you've got this pension income. You've also potentially got the state pension, and we can talk about like maximizing that to make sure you've got your full 35 years of national insurance contributions in order to get your full state pension. So yeah, we've got the state pension. You might have other investments, and you might use other investment strategies as part of your overall retirement strategy. So you might have dividend income. Maybe you're like, do you know what? I'm going to invest in the pension because certain benefits of investing in a pension, but also I'm going to invest separate to that. And that income is going to pay me dividends. And so I have this quarterly income coming in while I am retired. You might have real estate income. You might have a business. Maybe your business you're still working for. I mean, you can stay the CEO and like delegate the day-to-day operations to other people and still get paid a salary. Okay, so your business you don't have to sell your business. You don't have to bin your business when you go retired. Like, you can just delegate the operations of it and keep raking that money in. So there's all sorts of ways of bringing in an income. Okay, try to put everything into one pot, and that's a lot. And if you think back to this £37,000, right, that we had, let's assume the state pension is going to be there. And that's roughly £12,000. Right, it's like £10,000 to £12,000 a year. Let's say you are getting the full state pension. Well, that £37,000 income goal just reduced by 12k, okay, and is now 25k. So now you only need your retirement fund to pay you £25,000 a year instead of £37 a year. That has now obviously reduced how much we need to have in an investment pot. Okay, that's the number of income streams. So finally, number 5 is calculating the gap. We know now that I need £25,000 per year in a retirement pot. I know from my life vision that I want to be retired for roughly 30 years. And so I can go away and do calculations. And so there is a compound interest calculator, which I love using. It's the calculatorsite.com, and it's just the compound interest calculator. It's what I use for everything. And I can go on there and I can go, okay, let's say currently have a pension pot of around £10,000. Okay. So it says initial investment, £10,000. Interest rate. Now, investing, I can get anywhere between, say, 8 and 12%, so roughly 10%. But this is a pension, and they tend to be slightly safer on the investment side of things, and also it is tailored throughout the years. But I am investing in a slightly riskier fund because I do want that growth. Again, all these things to consider. I'm going to say that my average interest rate over the next 30 years that I'm saving for retirement is going to be around 8%. Now, I know already that my current returns are higher than that, but again, I'm thinking about this longer term vision and how it might reduce over time. Okay. I'm 30. Let's say I want to retire at 60, and then I'm, hoping to live until 90 at least. I could go with my current £10,000. if I don't contribute another penny, I can calculate that in 30 years' time, that is going to be worth £109,000, which is great, but that's not going to last me very long. So let's say I add £200 a month. It's thinking, so it's really thinking, okay, the internet is slow today. Okay, no, but really. So using that compound interest calculator with a current pot of £10,000, an 8% interest rate over the next 30 years, and depositing £200 a month, I will have, in 30 years' time, £407,500. And you're thinking, Emily, that's great, but what does that mean? Because you said you needed £25,000 a year. This is where we go to another calculator. And again, it is also on the calculator site. And it is called, How Long Will My Money Last? Essentially, what you want to do is bring over that number from the compound interest calculator. So I'm bringing over that £47,500. I'm going to say that my interest rate, so my money is still going to be invested and it's still going to be growing. But at retirement, it's probably going to be growing at a lower rate. Now, I say lower, I'm still going to keep it at 7 because I understand investing. I know my risk tolerance and all these things. So I can put that in, and then there's a regular withdrawal. So I can choose yearly, and I know I want £25,000 a year. Then it asks you, how long are you hoping your savings to last? I'm going to say 30 years. Okay, let's calculate that. Okay, so that is perfect. What it tells me now is because so it's going to say at 60, when I hit 60 years old, based on investing just £200 a month from today, I will have £407,000. But at 60, when I retire and I start taking down £25,000 a year, it is going to continue to grow because the amount that I am withdrawing is less than the amount it is growing. Okay, because that amount of money, even with a small interest rate, it is growing considerably. So this is telling me that at 90, I would actually have £845,000. So my money is going to double, even though I'm taking money out. Now, this is great because this tells me one of three things. It tells me I can either retire earlier or live longer, right? I have a longer retirement is option 1. Option 2 is I can invest less per month. Like, I was already only agreeing to do £200. So what if I reduce that to 150? What if I reduce it to 100? I have the option to reduce that and I can play around with these numbers. Or I keep the plan as it is and I know I'm going to have money in order to pass down. Okay, that is it. That is how to calculate your retirement. So essentially you're going to do the life vision. What do you want your life to look like? Then you're going to cost that up. You're going to consolidate what you currently have so you know where you're starting from. You're going to consider your income streams and how you want that income in retirement. And then you're going to work out what is the gap between what you currently have and what you need and what you need to invest per month. And how you do that is by using this compound interest calculator and this how long will my money last calculator. I definitely want to do this with a financial expert. Gosh, if only I had a program, only I had a way of working with me that would help you with this. You know what I'm going to say? 6-Figure Safety is where we do this. 6-Figure Safety is a year-long money mentorship program. You are going to build your holistic financial plan, okay? I like to call it the only money program you're ever going to need because we're going to look at what are these future goals and we're going to basically work out how much does your business need to be paying you in order to hit all of this. And we're going to reverse engineer. This is how your business needs to be structured, your offers, your pricing and everything. And this is how you're managing your money in your business to pay yourself this set monthly salary. Then we go into phase 2 and we look at, of this set monthly salary, how are we using that to achieve our dream life today, but also putting away for the future? And in phase 3, we look at that future part. Okay, now I'm putting away for the future. How do I make sure that I maximize that? And how do I make sure that I am on track? And you can adjust. So once you get to phase 3, you're constantly adjusting, right? Because you now have the skills. And that is the most important thing about six-figure safety is, yes, okay, it's a year-long money program, whatever, but these skills you are going to learn in this program will be with you for the rest of your life. You will pass these skills down the generations. Your children will learn how to manage money because you learned how to manage money. Okay, so that's where you could come and I can help you with that. And I would love to. Dawn are actually going to close on the 1st of April and they're not going to open again until the summer. So if you want to get started, because remember, time in the market is more important than the amount in the market, then let me know. And I will see you inside. But thank you so much for listening. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.